What is going on in France as one of the largest countries in the European Union? Hugely significant, of course, politically and economically within the European Union. And what is going on in France also impacts the rest of Europe and, of course, impacts the euro currency. So to find out how all this is being viewed in Brussels, we're joined now by our Europe editor, Armen Georgian, who's at the European Parliament there today. Armen, thanks for joining us. You know, Michel Barnier, he spent many years as a European commissioner. He also famously, of course, headed the EU's negotiating team over Brexit. He's hugely well known there, probably pretty well liked. You know, what are they saying? They must be pretty unsettled by this in Brussels.
Well, you're right that a lot of MEPs here, Angela, know Michel Barnier, not just from his days as the EU's Brexit negotiator, but the old-timers here actually go way back with Michel Barnier. And of course, they don't know what they're going to get in Michel Barnier's place if indeed his government falls. But I don't think there's a lot of surprise here that things have come to this in France. I was just speaking to an MEP from the Socialists and Democrats, and he said to me, well, if you have a government that doesn't fit what voters voted for, then you're going to have the kind of mess that we see today. So he was referring to that snap parliamentary election in France this summer when President Macron's gambled misfired. But there's a bigger picture here as well, Angela. I was talking to a German MEP a few moments ago. He said to me the Franco-German motor is collapsing. And what he meant by that was that the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, is in even more trouble than President Macron is in France. Germany is going to have an election in February, so Scholz will be in an election campaign just when Donald Trump comes into the White House and presumably makes his big diplomatic move on Ukraine. And this German MEP was saying, well, what is Europe going to do then if the Franco-German tandem is in such disarray that it can't come up with a really effective counter-response to the US, both militarily and diplomatically when it comes to Ukraine. So that probably is weighing on some minds here in Brussels.
Yeah, I mean, it is a messy political picture for Europe, as you say, just as Donald Trump is about to take over. In terms of the economy, France, of course, in the euro, are they worried that this is going to affect the whole Eurozone economy?
Well, remember that the European Commission approved the French debt reduction plan that Michel Barnier presented. That debt reduction plan was given the green light on the 26th of November, and it was what was approved there was these 60 billion euros of savings that Michel Barnier wants to make. Now, of course, we'll have to see what happens later today in the French Parliament, but if this censure, this vote of no confidence makes it through, then all of that is under question. How will France then make these savings in order to get its public finances under control? It certainly won't happen simply by the current budget being rolled over by the stopgap measure, because then France's public debt basically will keep on rising. Its public borrowing costs will keep on rising. And one Dutch MEP told me, if you want to have influence in Europe, you need to have your public finances in order. And of course, the Netherlands themselves have been making some very difficult decisions recently on how to try to balance their budgets, where to make sacrifices, where to make savings. So France is not alone. Indeed, the European Commission has a debt surveillance procedure in place on 7 EU member states. But France being the second largest economy in the Eurozone, it's obviously particularly important for France to move on its public debt in order for Europe as a whole to be able to move forward on things like the long-term EU budget negotiations, on things like competitiveness, on things like implementing the Mario Draghi report, which is all the talk of the town in the last few weeks, on stimulating the European economy, making that green transition, continuing to support Ukraine, continuing to build tech innovation, research and tech sovereignty, all those things are, of course, bound up with the health of the European economy and therefore with the health of the French economy.